Hey everyone, my name is Michael, and I wanted to give you guys a 1.5 year review on the Vivobarefoot Magna FG shoes. Like I said, I've had these since January of 2024. It's now almost June of 2025, and I've put a lot of miles on these. So I wanted to give you a quick rundown on my thoughts of them after long-term use. And so yeah, first I'll give you my use case. So I was going on a extended trip to Asia at the time for about 6 or 7 months. And so I needed a shoe that was lightweight but versatile, could do hiking, etc. Wouldn't get too hot, but also could sustain a little bit of rain. And so I chose this mostly because, well, A, it's barefoot shoe, so I like the idea, especially of the wider toe box. I don't mind too much about whether there's a large or a very thin sole. I more care about the toe space. And I chose this barefoot shoe in particular because of the leather upper. I thought that the leather would be really good for those rainy days. But as you can see, the top part of the shoe still has quite a bit of breathability. So I thought it'd be a really good sort of all-around shoe. And for that, it's done really, really well for me. So again, I spent a lot of time in different climates, very hot, very cold. This performed really well in both. I was actually quite surprised at how well this did in pretty warm weather, with my feet not feeling too hot, despite having a slight lining of wool in them. Now in the winter, I did need to pair up with a few more layers of socks, so that was a consideration, but overall I've been really happy with these shoes. They've really served their purpose very well. So now let's just go into a couple different categories. So let's start with comfort. I mean, these shoes feel really good on the foot. You really feel locked in, and I really like that. They've got this little foot cup on the back, and when you slide that thing on, I've said this in a previous review about the soft ground version of this shoe, you just really feel like you're in space boots, which is quite nice. You forget that they're on, they're lightweight, again, they're comfortable. Where the comfort lacks is just an aspect of it being a barefoot shoe. You're gonna find when you're hiking on potentially some more rocky trails that a rock might hit your foot, especially in the arch, in a weird way and cause you some discomfort. Now, some people are probably going to be in the comments saying, hey, this is a barefoot shoe, what do you expect? And I do expect that, but it's something that I thought I'd bring up. Besides that, I think comfort is really solid on this shoe. Now, grip. Grip is an important factor considering this is shown as a sort of a hiking shoe. So you can see the bottom of the shoe is lined with these sort of cleats, and the cleats are they're pretty respectable. You can look online for how tall they are, but the cleats have worked well in a variety of conditions. I've been very happy with them in almost every condition. There's one condition that they really struggle with though, and that is on wet tile, which I found a lot of in China. On wet tile, these things just really struggle. They've got very poor grip. It's like being on ice skates. Whereas something flatter, like a Vans or something like that, has a lot better time just because of the amount of surface area that is in contact with the ground. So that's kind of a challenging use case for these shoes, and somewhere where they lack. So if you're doing a lot of tile walking or get these shoes, just be mindful of that negative. So in almost any other case, they've got great grip. I guess one other place where they struggle with grip, but again, this is many shoes struggle with, is if you're hiking in sort of a wet clay environment and the clay covers the entire bottom of the shoe, you're just basically left with, again, an ice skate. Both of these situations are just difficult for any shoe to be designed for, let alone something that's trying to be a end-all be-all shoe. So keep that in mind. Okay, look, you know, Online, this is supposed to be a green and a blue shoe. I know the lighting is a little challenging in here, but certainly after all this wear, it does not look green or blue. Well, it actually looks just pretty much all blue. This piece does not look very green. So I was a little bit disappointed at first that the colorways weren't as vibrant as they were in person. That being said, I think the overall look of the shoe is really quite enjoyable. I think it strikes a good balance of having that, on one hand, it's a cool and unique shoe you don't see very often, but it's also toned down with respect to the other barefoot shoes, where I've sometimes felt that the barefoot shoes are so striking and so out there that I almost need to plan my entire outfit around them, which can be cool if you build your outfit around them, but it doesn't strike the versatility point, which I think is very important with these shoes, is that I want these to be cool, but I don't want them to stand out so much that I can't wear them, with jeans or with this color or that color. So I think this strikes a good balance of being interesting when you finally see them, but when you walk up to someone, it's not going to be the first thing you're like, oh my God, what are those? So looks, I think they did really well balancing them. And so yeah, props to Vivo on that. Okay, durability. Let's talk about durability. So my previous Vivobarefoot review, if you've seen it, was of the soft ground version of these. And I had a lot of problems with delamination. In fact, after maybe 3 or 6 months, I had to send them back. They were just completely delaminated. I'm happy to report that this shoe has not seen the delamination after 1.5 years that the other shoe saw in quite the amount of time. It still does have a little bit of delamination, but it's not something to really worry about. And while I was in Vietnam, some guy came and I told him, I don't want my shoes clean, I don't want my shoes clean. And he just kept coming and shoved some super glue in those cracks. So it will come off at some point in the future, I'm sure, but after 1.5 years of use, I feel very happy with the level of put togetherness this shoe still has. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the seams are not gonna have as much strain because the top material is thicker. So you're not gonna get such crazy bends in the shoes that you might have been getting with the lighter shoe. So durability, all really good. The tread is still quite thick, very little wear on the tread. The leather is holding up pretty nice. I haven't done any treatments to the leather, just except for what the guy in Vietnam did unwillingly to my shoes. And they look beaten up and worn, but for 1.5 years, that's what I'd expect. The insole still looking great. Laces still looking great. I really like the laces that they put on these. They're just thick enough, but kind of supple as well. So in terms of durability, I'm very happy with it. Let's talk about cost. So look, these shoes are a luxury item. They are not a need to have. Let's get that straight. So with that being said, I think that the price is as a luxury item. Okay, I think these ran close to $200 if I'm remembering correctly. Maybe even more, maybe 210. Anyways, they're in the high hundreds, low 200s. And I think that you can get a shoe that does exactly what this shoe does for the most part at a fraction of the price. Let's say low 100s from a company like Lems or something like that. Maybe 120, 130. But it's not going to be the Vivo brand name, which I know a lot of people are really about Vivo. And also, it's just got a cool style. I mean, really, if you like the style, you're just going to be sold on these shoes and you'll get used to the rest of the stuff. So that's kind of how I was. I was like, whoa, I think the style is pretty cool. And I saw that it was supposedly going to fit the rest of the use cases. And while I still think they're overpriced for what they are, I'm still quite happy with my purchase. So all that's to say, I would recommend them to a lot more people if they were a little cheaper, but I still think that for the right person, these can be a great buy. All right, let's wrap it up. I think that's enough. Um, let's just do overall synopsis. These shoes are great shoes. I'm much happier with these than the previous Vivobarefoots that I ordered. They've served me well for a year and a half. Only gripes I have with them is traction in the clay and traction in on tile. I think is are the negatives. And I'd also like to see the colorways online match up a little bit more with the colorways in person. I think that would be really good. And yeah, I'd like to see the sole stitched on if possible in future models, just so that we can get rid of even the idea of delamination, that being even a question in our minds. So thank you for watching. I hope this was useful, and yeah, leave some questions in the comments if you have them. All right, thanks.